So George is a brain coach, and what's really fun about that, and I've had the pleasure of working with George, and he's amazing. He's a serial entrepreneur, and he started this brain club, and I'm telling you, I couldn't be more blown away by the program itself, and then what George offers. He's transformed so much about my life and in a very short period of time, and hopefully we'll be able to share some of my big aha moments. And but George takes a very good neuroscience approach, and he calls it like going to the gym except for your brain. And so the brain club is really it's fascinating. I would have never thought about coaching like this, and it's fun, and I get so excited every time I learn something that has really changed things for me and enhanced so many things. And I'd love to share later, hopefully. But so I'm going to turn it over to George. And George, thank you so much for being here. I'm excited to have you share with a group. And I don't know if other people geek out on neuroscience, but you know, it's you're somebody to geek out with.
Well, hopefully they start geeking out after our presentation today. And hello, everyone. Good morning. Hope everybody's feeling relaxed. Nervous systems are calm. Interesting thing about the brain is that we learn best when our nervous systems are rested and relaxed. When we're in activated, task-oriented mode, our brains tend to be highly focused, and it's not willing to accept and look at new information. So take a deep breath or two, stimulate your vagus nerve, which is the main nerve that runs from your brain all the way down into your gut. When you stimulate that by breathing, humming, singing, there's even little tools now vibrating tools that you can get off the internet and stimulate your vagus nerve, and it activates the parasympathetic state, which is the rested and relaxed state. So whenever you're feeling a little activated, just think about your vagus nerve and stimulating it, and it immediately starts taking you into this other nervous system state. So anyways, thanks so much for being here. We're going to talk a little bit about the brain today. It is the most important organ in your body, by the way. It's less than 1% of your body weight, but it consumes 25% of your energy. And it's the one organ in your body that's going to be the determinant of your success, your fulfillment, your happiness. So it does stand to reason that we take a little time to understand how it works, right? And what I've found, until I was 52 years of age, I knew nothing about my brain. As Christy mentioned, I was an entrepreneur and just was highly focused on my work. Never thought to stop and learn how my brain worked. I just demanded from it constantly, and it resulted in a lot of unhelpful patterns in my life. And so at the age of 52, I had a health crisis, and I had to stop and pause and take a hard look at how I was living my life. And so that caused me to dig deep into my brain, learn about brain science. 13 years later, here I am helping other professionals do the same. All right, so let's get started. You are who you are today and want to be in the future. Your brain is who you've been in the past. This is a highly effective viewpoint to take when you are working on brain performance and why you experience what you do in your mental life. In my work, I ask clients to separate themselves from their brains and look at it objectively as a separate entity. I ask them to create a partnership with their brain, an equal partnership where you both take care of each other's needs. A partnership where you think of your brain's needs first before you think of your own. When you do so, you'll find all aspects of your life improve dramatically. Understanding how your brain functions, how to optimize its performance, and how to design your mental life is probably the most important thing you could ever do for yourself in your lifetime. And yet hardly any of us ever do. We don't take the time to understand how the most important organ in our body, as I said, the one thing that will have the most influence in your success, happiness, and fulfillment operates. We spend lots of time caring for our bodies and virtually none caring for our brains. The brain is not fixed. It is completely trainable, malleable, and shapeable. Its performance exists on a broad spectrum, as broad as physical performance. We know this about physical fitness because we go to the gym, but we don't seem to grasp the same concept when it comes to mental performance. We accept and even respect the fact that when we get sick or have an injury to our bodies, but when the brain catches a cold, affecting its mental health somehow, there's a stigma. There's something wrong with you, or you need to be fixed. I hope that statement sounds as ridiculous entering your ears as it does to me when I say it. The brain is the hardest working organ in your body. It weighs 1% of your body weight, consumes 25% of your energy, and it consumes the most energy of any organ in your body, followed by your liver. I'm here today to ask you to join me in giving the brain the respect it deserves. When you're between jobs, roles, or chapters, you're not just between positions. You're in the space where the old world has ended and the new one hasn't started yet. And your brain experiences that gap before you consciously do. To understand why this feels so destabilizing, you need to understand the brain's number one job, what it's designed to do. The brain's job is to keep you alive, using what's called prediction. It's not happiness, it's not motivation, and it's not confidence. It's survival. And the brain achieves that by predicting what will happen in the next few milliseconds before it actually happens. Prediction is the brain's operating system. It's constantly scanning your environment, your memories, your habits, your routines, your identity, and your body state to forecast what's about to happen next. When the brain can predict, it feels safe. When it can't predict, it treats the unpredictability like potential threat. Your job, your routine, your identity, your schedule, those weren't just parts of your life. They were the inputs your brain used to generate accurate predictions for your life. So when a transition happens, when your role changes, your structure dissolves, your routine disappears, the brain loses the very information and structure it has used to keep you stable. It's not that the future's dangerous. It's that the brain can't predict the future the way it used to. So it becomes uncertain, unpredictable. The brain experiences mental friction when it can't predict what is going to happen next. This alone creates nervous system instability, high alertness or hypervigilance, emotional sensitivity, mental fog, a feeling of being untethered, out of coherence. You're not lost or broken. Your brain is in the process of recalibrating because the prediction model it used every day no longer applies. This is the essence of why transition feels mentally heavy. Your brain is trying to rebuild the internal map it needs to feel safe and capable. The brain prefers a predictable struggle over an unpredictable opportunity. It doesn't care if your old situation wasn't ideal, if you weren't happy. It cares that it could predict it. When you enter a transition, your routines, identity cues, and structure disappear. The brain tries to apply its old predictive map to your new reality, and it doesn't fit because the new reality has changed. This mismatch causes mental friction. Mental friction is the internal tension you feel in your mind when your brain's old predictive map no longer matches your new world. Your brain expected the old pattern, your current reality doesn't match it. This gap produces overthinking, emotional sensitivity, restlessness, difficulty focusing, feeling off, unfocused, or ungrounded. You're not reacting to the situation. Your brain is reacting to the prediction gap. Transition feels hard because your brain is trying to operate with a map that is no longer accurate. This is called a prediction error. Prediction error is simply this. My brain expected one thing to happen or my life to be in a certain way, but something different is happening now. So my predictions don't match what's happening now. When that happens, the brain sends a general alert signal throughout your body. This alert ramps up emotion, tightens the nervous system, and makes thinking harder. Not because you're in danger, but because the brain doesn't know yet how to predict this new environment. This is the root cause of brain fog, anxiety, fatigue, indecision, overwhelm, burnout, rumination, self-doubt. The brain is not reacting to the situation that you're in. It's reacting to the constant mismatch between what it expected and the actual experience of being in transition. Every time your brain tries to run an old prediction and reality doesn't match it, friction surfaces again. This is why transition feels like, why am I like this? Nothing's wrong with you. It's just that your brain's predictive model just hasn't updated yet. Your brain uses a huge amount of energy under normal conditions. During transition, that energy consumption increases even more. Why? Because it's doing two things at once. It's trying to run the old prediction patterns while it's also trying to build new ones. This double processing is what creates adaptive load, the heavy mental burn you feel. This explains why transition creates fatigue, fog, irritability, emotional swings, low motivation, reduced bandwidth. You're not tired because you're doing less. You're tired because your brain is rebuilding its internal operating system. This is the most important idea in this entire presentation. When you're in transition, you're not stuck. You're between patterns, between identities. Your old patterns no longer fit your reality. Your new patterns haven't formed yet. This gap, the pattern gap, the identity gap, is what creates emotional and mental instability. A few examples. Your old workday pattern. Your brain expects that you'll wake up, commute, meet your coworkers, do some tasks, and generate some results. Now that pattern is gone. So your brain doesn't know what to predict at 9 a.m. That's friction. An old identity pattern. Your brain used to predict you were at work during the day. When the role disappears, the identity cues disappear. Your confidence didn't collapse, the identity pattern collapsed. An old productivity pattern. Your old world rewarded nonstop productivity. Transition has a different rhythm. The brain keeps trying to run the old pattern of, I need productivity to feel worthy, and reality doesn't match that. That mismatch feels like failure. But it's not. It's rewiring. Your job and your routines gave you brain identity cues. Responsibility, belonging, your role at work, your purpose, your value. When that structure disappears, the identity map breaks. This creates, I don't feel like myself. Who am I? My confidence is gone. I feel unmoored or irrelevant. These feelings are not weakness. They are the result of the brain losing the external cues it used to define identity. Identity isn't gone, it's just being rebuilt. When the brain senses unpredictability, it shifts into caution mode. The nervous system activates. That mode makes the nervous system tense and pulls energy and other resources away from the front part of your brain that allow clear thinking. This is why decision making becomes harder even for highly capable people. It's not a skill problem, it's not laziness, and it's not indecisiveness. It's a predictable brain response. Uncertainty equals caution, equals reduced clarity, equals indecision. When the brain stabilizes, the higher order parts of your brain, the cognitive parts of your brain, including your decision making, will come back online naturally because the resources that the brain uses to function will migrate back into those parts of the brain away from the survival part of the brain. There's a survival part of the brain in the midbrain called the limbic system. And when you're under threat, all the resources that your brain uses to function, energy, neurotransmitters, minerals, enzymes, all get summoned from all the different parts of the brain into the midbrain for survival. Because remember, survival is the brain's number one job. That's what it's designed to do, keep you alive. Okay? And so an activated nervous system hijacks resources from all the different parts of your brain. That's why you don't feel like yourself. One of the biggest misunderstandings about transition is thinking you feel off because of external circumstances. Now that's part of it, but the real driver is internal. Your brain is burning through its mental resources, energy, neurotransmitters, enzymes, minerals, vitamins, faster than it can replenish them. It's very much like sitting in your driveway with your car in park, revving the engine. You're going to go through gas faster. Every decision you make, every what should I do next, every moment you're trying to figure out who you are now, every bit of uncertainty draws heavily from your mental resource tank. Here's what's inside that tank, some of which I've mentioned. Glucose, which you get from complex carbs. That, along with oxygen, travels in your blood up to your brain, and your neurons make ATP, which is the energy that your brain uses. That's the brain's energy source. Attention bandwidth. Your brain fatigues like your body does. So you can go outside right now and start running. At some point, your body's going to get tired. Same thing with your brain. You only get so much bandwidth during the day, and you have to protect it and use it the way that you want to intentionally. Neurotransmitters like dopamine. Dopamine's the motivation chemical. Serotonin's the well-being, stability, and confidence chemical. GABA's the calmness chemical. Norepinephrine is the alertness chemical. Acetylcholine is the focus chemical. These are all made and produced from protein, amino acids, traveling up your bloodstream, into your brain, migrating into the neurons, and these neurotransmitters are made in your neurons. Emotional regulation capacity, which is your buffer against stress. Cognitive flexibility, your ability to adapt. During transition, your brain is running the old patterns, dismantling them, building new ones, trying to update your identity, scanning for threat, and trying to predict the future with inadequate information. This workload is enormous, far larger than what people realize. This is why you feel inconsistent. You are burning your mental resources at a far more accelerated rate, and it could well be that you're not replenishing them fast enough. So your brain simply can't function as well. This results in fogginess, scattered thinking, irritability, emotional swings, low motivation, difficulty following through, quitting early in the day, bursts of clarity followed by sudden crashes. This is not inconsistency, it's mental resource imbalance. Your tank isn't broken, it's just being drained faster than usual because the brain is working overtime to make sense of a world it can't fully predict yet. The brain stabilizes through 5 specific ingredients. Safety, not physical safety, but predictive safety. Consistency, the brain's ability to accurately predict what's about to happen next. Direction, not a perfect plan, just a general heading. Your brain hates a blank canvas. It hates uncertainty. That is the kryptonite for the brain, is uncertainty. Structure, small routines that reduce unpredictability. Energy, fueling the brain intentionally. And micro wins. Tiny wins, even when you're in transition, rebuild dopamine, which is our motivation chemical, and it starts to create momentum. When these are present, mental friction drops, the nervous system begins to calm, and clarity returns. Your brain can handle massive uncertainty as long as a few things in your day remain predictable. Predictability is the brain's version of safety. It reduces the threat response and restores clarity. These micro rituals act like anchors for your nervous system. Each one creates a moment where your brain says, I know what's happening here. I know how to operate. I'm not in danger. That single moment of certainty is enough to pull you out of overthinking, calm the nervous system, and lower mental friction. Here's why each of these rituals matters. A consistent wake-up routine. This is not about waking up early. It's about waking up predictably. A stable morning rhythm. It reduces cortisol spikes, stabilizes the internal clock, grounds your nervous system, gives your brain a predictable starting point for the day. It tells your brain, today has a shape, it has structure. We're starting on solid ground. 10 to 15 minutes of movement. Movement is the fastest way to shift your brain out of a reactive state. It increases oxygen, increases glucose delivery. Remember, these raw materials that you get from consuming things are traveling up your bloodstream, and when you move, you create more circulation. It also increases neurotransmitter production. So when you're moving, you're not just exercising, you're signaling to the brain, switch from survival mode to engagement mode. Predictable eating times. This stabilizes blood glucose, the brain's primary fuel source. When your body and brain get unpredictable glucose, you get unpredictable focus, mood, and energy. Predictable glucose equals predictable mental state. This is one of the simplest ways to reduce emotional volatility. One daily focus block. Not necessarily 8 hours of productivity, just one intentional block, like hopefully in the morning when your resources are highest, where your brain experiences some level of progress, accomplishment, direction, and competence. Could be doing anything. This block rebuilds the achievement pattern, one of the fastest ways to refill motivation and identity. Your brain experiences, I'm not stuck, I'm moving forward. A nightly wind down ritual. This is how you turn off the threat response before you go to sleep. Even a 10 to 15 minute ritual tells your brain the day is ending, nothing else needs your attention, it's safe to downshift, it's time to reset and recover. This improves sleep quality, which improves clarity the following day. These rituals aren't productivity tools or hacks. They are neurobiological stabilizers, and they're critical. They give your brain the exact ingredients it needs to reduce friction. Predictability, safety, rhythm, structure, micro progress. And when friction drops, everything else gets easier. Your decision making, your clarity, your confidence, your energy, emotional regulation, and motivation. This is how you stabilize the brain during transition. Not by trying harder, but by giving the brain something predictable to hold on to. Right now, you're in the identity pattern gap. Your old identity no longer fits your life. Your new identity hasn't been built yet. This gap isn't failure. It's the construction zone. To understand why identity feels shaky during transition, you need to know what identity actually is. Identity is a set of patterns your brain builds to meet your core psychological needs. Your brain constructs identity not for self-expression, but for survival and psychological stability. Identity helps your brain meet your 6 core psychological needs, and everyone here has the same 6. We can have them at different levels, different priorities, but these are the 6 core psychological needs that every human being has that your entire life is built in service of. Number 1, stability. I know who I am. I know my place. Autonomy. I have control over my life. Skillfulness. I'm competent. Competent. I can handle things. Equality. I'm respected. I matter as much as others. Togetherness. I belong. I'm connected. Significance. My presence in this world makes a difference. Over years, your brain builds identity patterns such as I'm the achiever, I'm the provider, I'm the expert, I'm the leader, I'm the dependable one, I'm the problem solver. Why? Because those patterns worked in your old environment. They reliably helped you meet these 6 core psychological needs. During transition, those identity patterns stopped working. Not because you failed, but because the environment that those patterns predicted no longer matches your current reality. Your brain tries to run the identity pattern, I know who I am at work, but the environment says that role doesn't exist here anymore. That mismatch creates identity friction, the mental friction that you feel when things aren't quite right. It's the uncomfortable emotional wobble where you feel, I don't feel like myself. My confidence disappeared. I don't know where I fit. I don't know who I am without my role. You're not losing your identity. You're losing the identity pattern that used to meet your needs. And your brain just hasn't built the new ones yet. Here's some concrete examples. The achievement pattern, which help fulfill your skillfulness and significance needs. Your old job delivered constant achievement cues. Transition removes them. The brain misreads the drop in feedback as I'm not capable. In reality, the pattern just doesn't match the current environment. The belonging pattern, which helps satisfy togetherness and stability. Your professional world provided predictable social cues. You had coworkers, you had collaboration, you had recognition from those you worked with. Transition removes them. The brain interprets that as I don't matter, when really it's I'm in a new environment without the cues yet. Stability pattern, which helps satisfy the stability and autonomy psychological needs. Your brain was used to predictable structure, income, rhythm, routine. When that prediction disappears, the brain signals danger, even if you still have resources in the bank to hold you through. The identity pattern no longer matches your new world. Identity reconstruction is at the heart of transition. This chapter of transition is not about finding who you are. It's about designing an identity that meets your needs in this new season of life. Identity is not discovered. Identity is engineered, it's constructed. And the good news, the brain is more open to rewiring identity during transition than at any other time of your life. This is where the real transformation happens. This is why our work matters so much. Transition doesn't require willpower. It requires a brain that can handle uncertainty without losing stability or identity. In the Brain Club, which is my business, where professionals come in and learn more about their brain and how to optimize their brain performance and tackle and resolve unhelpful mental patterns like we've discussed today. We help reduce mental friction, stabilize and calm your nervous system, manage your mental resource tank so you're supplying your brain with the resources it needs to handle the demands you're putting on it. We rebuild identities, we rewire patterns, restore clarity, move forward with confidence. Transition isn't the end of a chapter, it's the training ground for the next one. You don't need to push harder, you need a brain that's working with you, not against you. That's what we do inside the Brain Club. That is the end of our presentation today. Thank you so much for being here and listening.
So we've got questions.
Okay, let's
Um,
take some.
yeah, so first, why don't you explain a little bit more about the Brain Club and what it entails? And then we'll go through some of the questions.
Yeah, so I think as Christy will tell you, um, the premise that we start with is education. Because if we went around the room here today and I asked you, what do you know about your brain? How does it work? Why do the mental experiences you have come into it? I'm probably going to get a few blank stares at me, okay? And it's okay. But so what we start with is this is educating you about how your brain works. And once you have that education, that foundation, um, a lot of clarity comes over you. Everything starts to make sense. All of a sudden, you're not overwhelmed by what's happening. You understand it, and that gives you a lot of clarity. And then from there, and so there in the Brain Club, it's a portal. You come in, there's a bunch of education that you participate in, and you start this process of learning about the brain. And then what we do is we have coaching calls where we help you with the individual things, patterns that you want resolved, things that are unhelpful in your life. We build lifestyles around supporting the brain and what it needs is from a resource perspective. And so there's different types of membership. Ones that are monthly memberships where you come in at a fairly low cost and you take part in the education and one training call a month and be part of our professionals group like you have here today. And we just share experiences. And so it's kind of an educational membership. And then there's more accelerated memberships where we have lots of coaching calls, in some cases every week. And we work on very specific things in your life. And that's typically a 3 month accelerator. And by the end of it, you become a little mini neuroscientist and your brain makes total sense to you and you know how to operate and structure and design your mental life going forward. And I'm telling you, it's one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself because again, we're relying on this thing for our success, our happiness and fulfillment. So doesn't it make sense to understand how it works?
Yeah, and you know what's interesting is and uh yeah, Ed says I'd like to know a little bit more about the neuroscience. It's fascinating what I've learned. Michael earlier on during one of the slides, he asked if it could cause depression. So and you know the whole being in transition, your brain can't predict what's going on. You know, it's like there's so much that you're dealing with, and you're trying to sift through it and make sense of it. It can that be a cause of, you know, I would call it probably situational depression.
100%. I mean, that's what anxiety and depression are. They're the outcomes from unattended, unaddressed mental friction that goes on and on and on. Um, Overwhelm is a situational case where the demands that we have on our brain are far exceeding the resources. When you're, but overwhelm can come and go. But when you're in constant overwhelm, unaddressed, not addressing the root causes of what's causing it, you arrive at burnout. So, depression is an extended form of constant anxiety. So, yeah, these are all things that occur because of this, and but can be resolved.
You know, and what's interesting, and I've told you this before, I had no idea that I could look at my thoughts and you know that my situation in this way, and it has made so much sense to me. So, um, George, can I share like what you and I worked on?
I love it. Yeah, sure.
Okay, so So all of you, I have always prided myself on the fact that I can plan and I anticipate everything and I go through life and it's like, okay, I mean, my dad taught me when he taught me how to drive, try to predict what that driver is going to do, make sure that you know when you're going to move over. Well, I took that to an extreme and I thought about that for everything. When I'm in a store, what is going to happen to which line and I plan everything and I anticipate everything. And when I'm taking care of my grandson, it's like, okay, what do I need to do to make sure that he's not getting into something? And when I have family gatherings, how is every minute of every, day of the day is going to go? And, what am I going to do in certain situations? I am thorough in that. Well, I was. And then what I learned, and it was just like this huge, huge aha was that what I'm doing is I'm exhausting I'm using resources that could be used for other things and I was depleting myself and I wore it as a badge of honor. And so when I learned this it was like, wait a minute, I'm using my brain the in the worst way. I mean, I'm using my valuable resources for something, trying to plan something that may not even happen or something that really doesn't matter. And so when I was working with George, when he was sharing, the salience network consumes the most energy, I was like, oh my gosh. And here I thought I was being so efficient. And but what I was doing is actually depleting myself. And so that it was on a Friday that I had this big aha. And I went into the weekend and I practiced just letting go, being present and just, enjoying things without thinking about planning because half the things that I plan are no big deal. I mean, they can, kind of go with the flow and I had the best weekend ever, especially with my grandson and who's, one and I thought, "Oh my gosh, this is such a different way of living." So since then, I've absolutely relinquish that whole thought that I have to anticipate everything. Even on my drive into the office, I stop anticipating what, other cars are going to do and how and I'm much more relaxed. In fact, George and I had a conversation yesterday. He said, "You're smiling more." I had no idea that what I was doing was depleting myself. I just thought I have so much on my plate and whatever. And so this is the power of figuring out what your brain does. And Stacy and I are doing this program together. And I don't know if you have any major ahas, but I was floored.
Yes, Christy. So, hello, George.
Hi, Stacy. You came in the side door. I didn't see you.
I know, I'm sorry, I had computer challenges this morning, but so I'll jump in here with a little bit different example, and it really goes to Dev's question and also Bill. I can speak a little bit to that. So, I have been in this brain club for the last, several months now with Christy. And I would tell you that I am giving George a run for his money. I am pushing back in every single way because my job transition continues. And that is the overarching theme of my life right now. And it is very uncertain. And so that uncertainty is palpable, right? And I was super proud of doing so well because I have the positive intelligence in my life. I've had that for 5 years, the PQ work from Dr. Shazad Shamain, and that allows for me to understand how to calm myself and to be productive in that way. But I would tell you that the reality of this stress keeps popping up. And no matter how much I try to really drill in on my PQ work, what I had to come to realization is that I was not actually fueling my brain in the way that it would actually help me. So, what can I control? And I have to double down on that. So, two of the things, right? Who I am, not what I do, not what, all the what, but who I am. So, doubling down on that. And also, the back to George's commentary around fueling my brain. So, the electrolyte, I'm sorry if I missed this part, if you talked about this, George, but the electrolyte piece has been a game changer. I am drinking first thing in the morning, at least 16 ounces of electrolytes, first thing. And it does wake up my brain in a noticeable way. And then right after lunch, another 16 ounces of the electrolytes. Total game changer for the afternoons. I have been obsessed with, just normal things like weight gain and that stuff. So I had cut out carbs and was doing all these things, right? Well, George was really pushing me on you're not fueling your brain. You're not giving it all of the balanced nutrients that it needs. And so I reluctantly am admitting that I started balancing my diet better, and it totally helps. It totally helps. So I think that there's a couple things that are happening, and I would go back to Deb's really quick because I don't want to, I want to let George give his perspective on what's on the questions. But Deb's question here about the constant challenge of being in transition and a slave to the cell phone or the emails to make sure that we do not miss any potential interviews, recruiters reaching out to us, all of the things that we need to be doing to stay on top of our job search, and how that is disruptive to the brain, to our day, to the structure we're trying to create for ourselves. And so what I have been trying to do with George's coaching is thinking about how to have some time that is absolutely focused time and turning the rest of it off and just focusing. And it has been a huge challenge, and it's also been super helpful. So I don't know if any of that is helpful to you all, but George, what did I miss in the saga of Stacy?
I think you covered it pretty well. Yes, so Stacy's great because she challenges me, as she said, on all of this stuff, and it keeps me on my toes. But um, you know, one thing about the brain is, um, and this is important, and I'm sure we've all experienced it. When we want to change something, change is hard, and it's not. Again, this is where it's important to separate ourselves from the brain. So we want to change, like we know that we want to, but somehow we can't seem to do it. And what it is the brain is resisting, not you. And what I mean by that is the brain wants to be able to predict the future. And to do that, the brain only can look at the past and all of your past experiences and find examples in the past that resemble what's about to happen. So if you're talking about change, that means something in the future that the brain doesn't know about yet. And so automatically, because that's not predictable, the brain resists it. And so that resistance you feel is just the brain not being able to predict. It doesn't know if what you're suggesting to it is going to be safe. It doesn't know if it's going to be rewarding. And it doesn't know how many resources it's going to cost in terms of mental resources. Those are the three check marks that the brain needs in order to begin to drop its resistance to change. And so that's where we do a lot of coaching, is around creating these scenarios for the brain that check those boxes. And so even like you could rehearse that change before you actually do the change, introduce your brain to it, and so then it begins to experience it in the slightest of ways. And then as you begin to drag it along, it's like taking your kid into the shallow end of the pool for the first time. You know, they're full of trepidation, but then once they get in, the resistance drops and they realize it's safe and how much fun it is. And so that's what we're having to do in these areas of change. So for example, the person that brought up having to check and Stacy said, needing to check their email every 15 minutes to see if something's come in. that is something that you've trained your brain to do. You have overactivated your salience network, and you become hyper vigilant, and like not checking your email becomes like a threat, and it's just a constant buzzing that's going on. And so we would work on changing that, and your brain would be hyper resistant to that because it can't predict. It knows that checking the email every 15 minutes works, and it can predict it, and it keeps you safe. But so then we have to work on taking the brain into a place that allows it to still satisfy its need, but do so in a healthier way. And so hopefully that helps. But that's kind of the process of change, is the brain is always going to be resistant to it until we begin to paint a picture for it that checks those boxes off.
Dev, if you're, I don't see your box, but is this helping at all? Because I think so many people are going through this. Dev, are you here?
Yes. Sorry, I'm a little under the weather, but yes.
No, that's okay. Is this
Yeah.
helping? Because I mean, I think everyone, when, it's like I need to pay attention in case somebody reaches out. Is this helping?
Yes, it does help. Yeah.
So one of the things that and Stacy mentioned this, and I forgot to mention this. I mean, another big aha that I had with George. I mean, there's so many, but is the hydration. And Stacy, I'm doing that as well. The 16 ounces before anything in the morning. And then making sure that I'm drinking more throughout the day. And that's been super big. But in addition, it's upping my protein. And so it's like my situation hasn't changed. The economy is still challenging, but I'll tell you, I have been, and George saw it yesterday. It's like I feel lighter, I feel more optimistic, just fueling my brain. And yeah, it's just crazy. It's like, okay, we haven't, you know, had revenue bumps, and we haven't had, uh, you know, the phone's not ringing off the hook, but I feel lighter, and so I feel like I can go into the things that I need to do business development, to do outreach, and things like that with a better feeling. I don't know if that is resonating with anyone, but it's like I had no idea how much hydration and protein and healthy fats affected it. And by the way, I've lost a couple pounds. And so it's like, what in the world is you know, my situation hasn't changed, but I feel so much better. And so thank you, George. I appreciate that. And the education is absolutely mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
So, Christy, just George, for everyone's benefit, can you repeat the actual electrolytes that are the five that are necessary, and maybe a little bit more about the nutrition? I think there's some additional questions in there.
Yeah, so just for everyone's edification, electrolytes are minerals that the brain uses for the gates of the neurons to open and close so that they can communicate with each other. And forms, that's what our thoughts, emotions, and actions are all made of. Our entire mental life is made up of neurons, which are brain cells connecting to one another and then communicating. None of that can happen unless there's minerals floating around in your brain fluid to allow those gates to open and close in sync and on a timely basis. So it's calcium, sodium, phosphorus, chloride, and magnesium. And you can get any kind of electrolyte mix that will generally have those five. Yeah, and so and then
And make sure there is no added sugar, I think
yeah,
was the
no added
other,
sugar,
right?
right?
We had to kind of like, because there's a lot of products out there, but
Yeah,
the one that has the five without added sugar is the best.
right. And on the nutrition end, your entire brain is 80% water, 20% dry weight. Of the dry weight, 60% of it is fat, and 40% protein. And so you have to eat protein, which breaks down into amino acids, gets into the plasma of the blood, comes up to the brain, and and that helps reinforce and rebuild the structural elements of your brain, both healthy fats and protein. In addition, amino acids from protein build all your neurotransmitters. So when you don't get enough, you're not motivated. You can't focus. Your calmness goes out the window. You're not alert. Okay. And so steady doses throughout the day. Your most important meals are during the day when you're drawing upon your brain resources at the most accelerated rate, when you're thinking and doing things and task oriented. The least important meal is dinner. And so we really need, and the other important thing is to mix healthy fats with protein, with complex carbohydrate, all in the same meal. So what I do a lot of is I drink shakes during the day. I have a fruit shake with all of my powders in it in the morning, and a vegetable shake in the afternoon. And I've got avocado in there. I've got olive oil for healthy fats. I put protein powder in there for my protein. And then I've got a bunch of complex carbs. Complex meaning they break down slowly in your gut so that the sugar, the glucose, only gradually goes into your bloodstream so that you get a constant source all day long. You always want to put fiber in there. A lot of the fruits have fiber, but also I put chia seed and flaxseed in, which are full of fiber. So the great thing about shakes is you can put anything in there. You can have fun with it and experiment with the different flavors and things that you like. And you get, it's hard to eat meals that have everything in it. And so the shakes are a great way to do that. You can make batches of them. I make 2 a week that each batch lasts me 3 days. I can take them to work. I can take them on the go, and I just drink them gradually throughout the morning. I take a few gulps at a time so that I'm getting this into my system repeatedly. It's now entering the bloodstream gradually, so that all this stuff is floating up in my blood supply to my brain, so that it's always there ahead of the time when the brain needs it. When you eat something, it takes 60 minutes for it to end up in your brain. When you drink something, it takes 30 minutes. So those electrolytes, 30 minutes after you drink them, you'll notice a brightening in your mind, because now the brain has what it needs for these electrolytes to open and close in a speedy way, on time and in sync. And Stacy, I think, or Christy mentioned that you feel like this enlightening or this brightening of your brain, and that's exactly what it feels like.
It's crazy. And now Elena asked about intermittent fasting. What are your thoughts on intermittent fasting?
Yeah, fast all you want to between 7 o'clock at night and 7 in the morning. That's a good 12-hour fast. If you do not fast during the day, big no-no. Because think of it, you are not giving your brain the raw materials it needs for your brain to function. Where is all the, we could sit here and argue about, okay, well, I'll fast, I'll do a keto diet, and over time your brain can start to pull energy from ketones. Okay, but the best way to do this is to fast between, eat dinner as early as you can, and then fast until the morning. First thing you do when you wake up is the glass of water with electrolytes, and then you start to move into your first meal, knowing that 60 minutes later, it'll start to hit your bloodstream, travel to your brain, and then you're ahead of the game. You've got supply up there for your brain to begin to manufacture the neurotransmitters, the energy, the enzymes, all the things it needs to function properly.
That's wonderful. Okay, one last question. Can you talk about plasticity, brain plasticity, just real quick?
Yeah, so neuroplasticity is the gift that the brain gives us to change, adapt, and evolve. So these patterns that we've talked about that may be unhelpful in your life, checking your email every 15 minutes, hypervigilantly and burning tons of energy. If that pattern wasn't helpful to you, then you can actually change your need to do that. Right now, it's a pattern in your brain, but that pattern can be dissolved and a new pattern formed. that accomplishes what you need to accomplish without all the urgency and hypervigilance. Okay, that change of patterns, neurons disassembling from an old unhelpful pattern, reassembling into a new helpful pattern, that's plasticity. The brain changing, these neurons moving around, forming new patterns. That is the gift. So no matter, your brain can be anything you want it to be. It happens to be what it is today, but if you don't like some of the things that it's doing right now, all those things can change. That's, I mean, I was an alcoholic, hit hard bottom at the age of 52, 13 years ago. From all my unhelpful mental patterns, I was coping with alcohol. I was in a really bad place. Through neuroplasticity, I've rewired my brain and I'm a completely different person with a new identity. It can happen, that's just a dramatic example, but go back in your life and look at the times that you've changed, okay? That is neuroplasticity in action.
That's wonderful. Okay, we are out of time. I swear I could geek out on this all day long. It's fascinating. George, thank you so much.
My
Will you
pleasure.
come back?
Love to come back if you'll have me.
Good. Oh, yes. I think we could talk about this even more, especially the different networks and
We'll
what's
go
going
deep.
on when different things happen. And there's just so much to learn about the brain. Okay, so we're going to send out your presentation and how to contact you and the link to the Brain Club so that people can learn more about it and sign up if they want. And then you'll have more individuals to enlighten, just like you have me and Stacy. So thank you all. We'll see you again, not next week, but the following week. And Michelle will send out the speaker information. And thank you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving
Happy
and
Thanksgiving.
happy Thanksgiving. And thank you so much, George.
My pleasure. Thank you guys.
Okay, bye everyone.